Hello, everyone. This is Opus Night, and you have entered Night Vision. Tonight, we have our celebration, which is our 20th show. And I am ecstatic to have every one of the authors join us tonight. We're going to have a beautiful time. Hello, everyone. How are you?
Great.
Doing well.
Great.
I'm good.
Everyone knows we've had a little bit of technical difficulty and we've started over like 5 times. So just so everyone knows, we are going to have a wonderful show despite all that's going on. Okay, we are going to start with Michael. Michael, what's been going on, love?
Yeah, no, I've been really busy. My Facebook group, Fantasy Sci-Fi Focus, is about 20 members away from hitting 5,000 members, and I've been pushing to hit that number for a good months, and we're finally there. So I'm going to be hopefully having a big 5,000 member milestone celebration on my group in the next week and a half or so. Just trying to get there. Like, there's people that join and then they leave, so we're trying to just get over that 5,000. I'm about to release a digital box set of 5 books for my Cider and Ale series, and that should have happened about a month ago, but every time I look at the first book, I notice things that I don't like about it, and I decided to put it up a little bit. So finally, I'm at the point where we're about to launch that, and taking a little break from writing. But in September, we're gonna work on a 6th book in that series, and in the fall, we're gonna launch an audio and ebook bundle of our 2nd series, James Reed.
That is wonderful. So, can you show us your book?
No, because I'm the lead. If I start trying to show my book, then the show will go on for 3 hours because I'll mess it up. I'm the least technological person of all time, but
tell us a little about it.
But the books are on Amazon right now. The first 3 are on Amazon: Ale House Wars, of Legend, and any day now we'll be putting up a pre-order for the 5-book box set. So yeah, but I wouldn't be able to show you the book.
Alrighty, that is awesome. I am so proud of you. And I thank you so much for coming to the show tonight because we missed you.
Oh yeah, no, it's a weird time. I told my wife that I was going to do this because it was the anniversary show. It's right in that sort of spot where my kids are about to go to bed.
Uh-huh.
So, which is the reason why I haven't been on more episodes, but I wanted to make an appearance tonight for sure.
Oh, well, if you have to cut out, we understand.
Well, we're good so far. Let's keep rolling. I should be good.
I'll read them a story.
Okay, Ron.
Oh,
what's been going on?
Well, gosh, what has been going on? Just published my book, first time ever, after 100 years of trying to get there. Got it on Amazon. Wish I could get an audio reader that I could afford, things like that. Book 2 is in the oven, I guess you'd say. I'm on like chapter 12, so what would that put me, about a third of the way in, maybe, something like that. And working on some promotion with Mike. Thank you, Mike. And I also, my family, we have a little small homestead that we moved into about 2 years ago. So I do a lot of work around the place. I guess I'm a YouTube farmer. I keep calling myself a YouTube farmer because everything I have to do, I have to learn it somewhere else because I don't know. But trying to do that, trying to say again.
I said, with writing, you live and you learn.
Yes. Just trying to. I'm kind of. I'm not a very disciplined person, kind of haphazard. So when I start writing, I just write like crazy, and then I don't do anything for a while, and then it takes me a while to it's always the getting started part that's the hard part for me, and then I'll write for quite a while. So that's kind of what's going on here. Life, the universe, and everything, as they say.
Awesome. Do you have your book on hand?
I just happened to, because I got a hint a minute ago that you were going to ask me. I do. Let's see. Can you see it? It's a physical book. Hey.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You see, I've done that.
It's on
but
Amazon. And you still can.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would have, but I actually gave all my physical copies to my mother-in-law, who has not read them.
Very. I just got these in. That's why I have them. So I had some friends ask about. I mean, things you never thought of when you get started. This people that want autographs. You're like, you want a what? A signed book. So I need physical books to do that.
I told you it's a full moon. They know it was the 20th.
Yeah, well,
So they can't,
is it a special moon or just a regular moon? I don't know.
Well, I know it's been a full moon the past couple days.
Okay.
So I'm happy with that. PD.
Yeah.
PD. That's me. I'm PD. Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you, love?
Congratulations on the 20th episode. Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So PD Leva, what do I do? I do something. I write novels. I write sci-fi novels. I write horror novels. I write fantasy novels. I write literary novels. I write dark fiction novels. And latest book is called The Rose, and it is a dystopian science fiction action thriller. It is about a species of alien vampires living in Hollow Earth who are attempting to subjugate the human population using a pharmaceutical chemical that destroys gray matter in the brain. Unfortunately for these alien vampires, the chemistry is based on an opiate chemistry, and they wind up getting addicted to the drug. So a novel that is The Rose, and The Rose is the superpower, so I don't think it's a romance either. So definitely not a romance. It's bloody and it's gory and it's like The Matrix, filled with action. Definitely good. There's the book.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
There's the book. I like it.
Nice
I
job.
like it.
Right? She did a great job. Like, it took months to get correct. So I'm glad the way it did.
I feel like I came to school without doing my homework.
You brought yourself, Mike. That's all we need.
What's funny is I only have this book here because I was doing another podcast and I was giving it away on that podcast, and that's why it's there. It's like the signed hardcover. It's actually the only reason why I have it. But I'm glad I have it because it came in handy in the present moment. So what else?
It costs money.
That's right. That's right. I've got a couple of books coming out. One in October 5th. That's called Gollum. That is my very proud. I'm proud of that novel. It is strictly a horror novel. And now I know that it's confirmed because my beta readers are all having nightmares. So I did my So I'm very happy about that. And I got another one, supernatural thriller, Girl on a Mission, coming out in November. And then The Rose Volume 2 in December. And 20 books over the next 5 years. I'm going to be a busy man. So I'm very happy to be here.
It sounds amazing. I love
Congrats.
it. I love it.
Awesome.
The earlier, the better. Ron or John?
Yes?
I keep trying to
John.
push Ron. John?
We look a lot alike. It's the hair.
It is, it's the beautiful faces. That's what it is. Talk to me, John.
So my next novel, Dark Metamorphosis, comes out on July 13th. So less than 3 weeks away. Pretty excited about that. It is the sequel to my previous novel, Alien People, second in the Alien People Chronicles. I don't have a physical copy yet. The proofs haven't arrived yet, but I can show you on my cell phone if everybody can see it. I'm not sure if you can or not.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
But that's the cover to Dark Metamorphosis. And the blurb, the back cover says, a brutal abduction, a merciless interstellar plot. Can Calandra and Extra fight deceit and assassins to reveal the dreadful truth? The scars Calandra Menankar carries go well beyond her amputated arm. After surviving a disastrous first contact with Earth, she wants nothing more than to avoid space travel and enjoy a quiet life with her husband. But her dreams shatter when her soulmate disappears at the hands of an unknown assailant. Master Pilot X Drugan is haunted by the deaths of his former crew, so he leaps at the chance to purge his guilt when the Stellar Guard dispatches him to capture a dangerous thief and saboteur. But when he discovers a diabolical frame-up, he's abducted and dragged back to the nightmarish blue planet. With no idea what became of her beloved, Calandra's determination to uncover hidden agendas puts her in an enemy's crosshairs. And to find his way home and save his people, Extra's only hope of survival may be to forge new alliances with old foes. Will they bring down a galaxy-spanning scheme before their lives are scattered to the stars? Dark Metamorphosis is the second book in the Explosive Alien People Chronicles science fiction series. If you like dogged heroes, deep state plots, and ruthless enemies, then you'll love John Kuhn's latest thrill ride.
Cool.
That sounds beautiful. I love it. All righty. When writing any type of book, what is the first thing that you do to get started? Do you write your characters? Do you base it on your setting? What is your magic? What is your potion that you just come up with? Michael?
Well, I'm a total plotter. So that kind of includes having really fleshed out characters and character motivations and knowing how I want the book to end, knowing how I want the whole series to end a lot of the time. And then obviously working out the plot. So because I co-write as well, what I'll usually do is I'll map out the entire book chapter by chapter with exactly what's going to go on. I'll have really detailed character sheets with their bios and their traits. And then I'll usually write the first 3-4 chapters. And then I'll send in my outline to my co-writer and he'll write some chapters and then send them back to me, and I'll look those over and kind of edit it and make it blend and stuff like that. So I kind of start with plot and character and setting and pretty much know where I want the story to go before I actually start writing.
Now, have you ever written a plot without the character being present? Like you just started with the scenery and the character jumped right in? Like you placed them in there?
Not really, because like my characters, the books, at least my role in the co-writing process is really about writing like insane, wacky characters. So you got your seals and walruses that fight over beer. You know, you can't really have much of a funny setting without those characters. You've got your cider-loving husband and wife snakes, your guitar-playing platypus, and your 24-year-old dude living with a panda. So those were kind of the framework behind all the books, was those characters. So basically, when I wrote the 5th book in Cider and Ale, which is the standalone that has some Easter eggs to the rest of the series, which is why we made it officially a book 5. I knew I wanted to pay tribute to a friend of mine that passed away a couple of years ago. I wanted it to be a guitar playing platypus named Paul. So that's what I did. I came up with all the reasons why this character was going to be unique. Made him a guitar player, made his band based on something real, named him, and decided who he was going to sort of hang out with as the story progressed. So it's really, it honestly, my ideas always stem from a character or multiple characters. If I don't have new characters that I want to write about, I just won't write. And that's kind of how I've been doing it so far. Now I might want to challenge myself once all these humorous fantasy novels are done, or if there ever gets to a point where I know a little different. But at this point, that's what I've been doing. In the Cider and Ale series, like the first book is only like 19,000 words, and they progressively get longer. And the last book in the series, the book 4, which is Harborland, which is the last official book in the series, I think is around close to 50,000 words. But they're not long books, so you can pretty much read the whole series in about the same amount of time as it would take to read, some fantasy authors' book 1. So,
it just sounds so fun.
Well,
PD,
send them to you.
thank you. I can't wait to show fans. I love it. I love it.
Don't forget to send the beer.
PD.
What question was what? Go ahead. What was it?
No, go right ahead.
All right. So how do ideas spawn? Like, what's the first step? That's what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. So I've gotten this question a couple times, right? So, and I've really been thinking about it lately. When I've finally figured out, right, is that the idea first spawns with an emotion, a theme, and a scene. All right.
Okay.
The emotion goes to the theme you're looking for, and then the theme has some sort of scene attached to it, which is usually like the very last ending, the very last line or last scene of the book. And then from there, everything else kind of formulates. How are we getting there, right? Who is this character? What are they meant to like overcome? Like, what is the theme behind the story? How is that going to interact? And then the in-depth portions of everything that else goes along with that plot comes through that.
Now you start from the beginning, correct?
When I write, I just sit down and I start writing from the beginning, and I know where it's going down. Other than that, I have no idea how they're getting there.
You see, I'm amazed with that, because anyone who knows me or has read anything I've written, I start with the end and work to the beginning.
Really?
Yeah, and I think it's incredible when someone, yes, I am what they consider a pantser, or pantser, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around. Like, I can write from the end and take different scenes, and collectively I know from the end of it where it starts. It's just always been that way. Now, Ron.
Yes.
I'm going to ask.
I do wear pants. Yes.
What's your magic?
Okay. Well, you guys just described 3 very different approaches. Yeah, I guess I would be considered a pantser, which I didn't know was a word until a few weeks ago, because I do tend to, well, let me start over. I think my ideas, I'll get an idea for something and I'll write it down. I'll just write down, so-and-so, this planet, so-and-so. And I have a list of those. And they may have no meaning, or I may never do anything with them. But then when I get ready to write something, I'll look down the list and, I would like to see a story about that. And I do a lot of world building. For me, I think the character and the world is what I build first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not saying that it's just super thought out or super planned. And then I don't really plan the chapters. I sort of plan, I have like a feeling, an idea of where it starts here and they kind of go there and then and whatever. But I'm totally open to the idea that when I get there, it may go somewhere else, and I'll make do with that and let it go. And but my editor said that my world building was kind of extreme, because he asked for all my notes. So I sent him all my notes, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, this thing is really built out." I said, "Well, yeah, because a lot of stuff I just don't use, but it's back there. It's kind of in the background." And then I start writing, and I see where it goes. For me, I don't know why. Does anybody else have this? For me, it seems to be a big thing for me to decide first person, third person.
Now,
And
Yeah.
once I get that done, but it's just weird. I have to decide which one do I want for this one. Is it first person or third person? I don't care about the other persons, but this, like the character in An Average Man, it's first person. It's just basically.
Yeah, no,
That's
I've
a good idea.
never even occurred to me to think
It just
of,
happens, huh?
first or third. Luke, are you with us?
Do you write both? Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I write both. And I will, like I said, I write poetry, short stories, and then I have my novels. And it's funny because when I write poetry, I can't read someone else's poetry. I refuse to read, it's hard because it makes me want to change their poetry, or it makes me want to add to it. And a long time ago, I'm like, well, I can't read someone else's poetry. Novels or anything thereof, I'm great with.
I've written a lot of songs, which I guess would be poetry.
Yeah,
I apologize. I was trying to check on Luke. I think we're out right now. Okay. I'm sorry. Ron, what were you saying?
Oh, I said I've written. I used to. Well, my wife still thinks I am. We've written a lot of songs, so I guess that would be considered poetry.
Now, question. You said you wrote songs. Do you try, like when you're listening to the radio or you're listening to someone sing, do you ever change the music in your mind or add to it or change different words or anything around?
I used to. There's several methods, but one of the methods I would do is I would take a song and I put my own words to it.
Yeah.
I used to write songs with a buddy of mine, and so I would just take a song I really liked, the cadence or whatever, and I'd write my own words to it, and I'd give him the words without telling him anything, just here, and he would write music to that. And then for me, it's usually pick up the guitar, start playing, and something kind of happens, and then from there the words come. So
yeah. Can I ask you a question, Ron?
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool because I mean, whenever I hear somebody talk about songwriting, because a lifelong singer-songwriter, music being my love before books.
Yeah. Are you a guitar player?
I'm not a guitar player. I've always had, because I am not super coordinated, but I've written songs and melodies either with another player or even on my own, and then sort of brought the whole melody and words to a guitar player and said, this is the way I want it to go. What I've normally done is I've started with a songwriting partner. They would write the melody. I would sing nonsense over it, like just whatever to fill the place. And then once I had my verse, chorus, middle eight, whatever set up, I would then go and write words, or I would find something that inspired me to write about that fit with that melodic arrangement. Like that's how I always did it. So
yeah, my wife is similar. She writes also, and she doesn't play. I mean, she can kind of pick out things on the piano. She's amazing vocalist, so she would have got things to basically like if she was teaching somebody how to vocalize something, but she's not a player. But she would do like you would do. She would come to me and say, hey, I got this song, figure out the chords. Here's the words, here's the melody, you know?
Yeah.
And I know I'm biased, but I think she's pretty good.
John.
Congrats, Mike. I like that.
John.
So
tell us what your magic is.
So I start out with, just random ideas. I get them from various sources: history, mythology, folklore, urban legends. Maybe I just ask a question and write down an idea that comes while answering that question.
Maybe it's a room full of boxes, John.
And then anyway, from there I'll do character sketches, do their biography of like the main characters and sometimes secondary characters, and you know, their personality, life history, interests, physical appearance, just every little detail I can think of on them. And then from there, I'll do like chapter by chapter outlines of the story, just the different plot beats that I want to cover from chapter to chapter, and then I write my story once that's done. And I don't generally stick too closely to that line. I allow myself spontaneity, and it just kind of serves as a jumping off point, but it helps me keep things organized so that I don't have a bunch of plot holes, or the characterization remains consistent. And so my approach is kind of a mix of a pantser and a plotter.
What's your favorite?
Mm-hmm.
What's your
My
favorite as far as
favorite what?
favorite as in coming up with the plot, or do you enjoy the different characteristics and traits that you can kind of evolve into a character?
I enjoy the building the characters and building out the world. That's really the fun part for me. You know, I can just, you know, the plot ideas are fun, and they serve as kind of like an initial spark, almost like a writing prompt. But the joy is where I get to kind of discover what these characters are all about, and what makes them tick, and what makes them interesting, and that's where the story really takes root for me.
All right. PD?
What was the question again?
What is your magic? Like, what is it when you start with your writing?
That's
Where do you start? Where do you begin?
I went already. So the emotion and the theme.
Interesting.
Emotion and the theme. And then everything after that is just pretty much trying to get the entire story to elicit that emotion so it hits the reader right here. Doesn't matter what that emotion is. It could be, you know, burst out in tears, or it could be feeling good about yourself, or it could be the world is friggin' evil and I need to watch myself. You know, whatever that emotion is. So I like hitting the reader right here, right there in the heart and in the brain too. So it always starts with that emotion in the theme.
Okay, guys.
Multiple points of view as well. So I love getting into my characters' heads. I'm also a psychologist and a hypnotist. I've been doing that for about a couple of decades at this point. So I love writing in multiple points of view, and I love crafting a villain. You know, your classic Hannibal Lecter type of character, your Heath Ledger's Joker. You know, and I love creating my villains, and I love getting in their heads. So when I write my books, I'm in their heads. And I love giving that over to the readers as well. That psychological, motivational component that goes with each one of the characters. I like the switch.
I definitely think you and I have a lot in common. Luke, are you there? Okay. Now I'm going to ask, I call it morbid curiosity. When you have a character and you have to kill them off, how do you decide which technique's going to work? And have you come up with different techniques for that same character to play off of other characters? Anyone?
Well, I mean, I've only because at the core of it, I want my books to be humorous, and because there's a lot of heart in the books as well. At this point, I've only really killed off bad guys, and they usually die in really brutal, nasty kind of uber violent ways.
They deserved it.
Pretty much, like, they're like my bad guys, especially in the Ale House Wars. It's like we're talking like a combination of like Satan and Michael Corleone. So they're real bad gangster dudes in embodiment of walruses. So I mean, these guys probably deserve to die by the time it's over. I do have actually there's I don't want to say too much because I have done a death of a character who was actually a reader favorite. And it was actually really sad, and I hated killing him off. But I'm a sucker, and I had a lot of people tell me how much they loved the character. So I kind of brought him back to life.
Interesting.
Which actually worked because of the way the story ended. And I'm not going to give that away, but there's a lot of magical kind of and philosophical reasons why to have this character come back to life. It made sense in story. And a lot of people were really happy that read the fourth book that we brought him back. And I actually made the character more of a forefront of that story. And now in September, we're writing a pure, true side quest with this character being the main character in the story, as narrated by the same character that narrates book 3 of my series. But the focal point will be this side character.
Now, did you decide to bring him back from the dead? Is it more the kind of incentive?
It turns out now I'm giving stuff away, but it's not really like the end of the world because he shows up at the beginning of book 4, and it explains like how he came back. But it turns out he wasn't really dead. He was only like sort of dead.
Mostly dead.
Mostly dead.
So again, that makes a little bit more sense in story. I decided to bring him back because when I asked people that read the previous book who their favorite character was and what their favorite parts of the book were, a lot of people said this character. And a few of them actually said that it was absolutely heartbreaking that he died, and that he didn't have a chance, because there's a big redemption arc, and he starts off as a real bad guy, and he gets to this point where he has this big redemption arc, does something real heroic, and then dies. So what I wanted to do was give him another chance. And he became a character that I made him a lot more likable, and I gave him a chance to interact with my main characters more in a pseudo positive light, because he's still an asshole, but he's a lovable asshole
Apparently.
as opposed
I've
to
never known anyone like that.
You know what I mean? So he starts off as just a pure asshole, and then he goes through this redemption arc and dies, and kind of comes back as a lovable asshole.
That's awesome. I love when a character surprises you, especially when someone reads so much into it that they don't want them to die. I've had 2 separate characters that friends have literally said, I will never speak to you again if you get rid of them. I want you to keep this one person. And it happened to be 2 different characters and 2 different people that wanted, specific characters. And I wondered, what element, Michael, do you think that character possessed that they loved so much that literally they wanted you to raise him from the dead?
He does a really heroic thing.
Okay.
I don't think it's and not only that. Okay, so this is Insider of Legend. So we're talking about a sidewinder snake, an anthropomorphic sidewinder snake named Sandy. So you learn a lot about him on this quest with the 2 main characters, Mika and Lethal. You kind of learn why he's an asshole, and he had a really hard life, a really hard past and troubled beginnings, and lost his parents, and there was this big plague going on, and he was trying to save his little brother who was dying of the plague. So he had a really, really rough existence, and basically once he spoke to them, and once Lethal, who is based on my wife, was actually talked to him and tried to get out the reason why he was such a jerk, and showed him compassion, he softened, because he had never really experienced anyone showing compassion before in his life. And so there's a friendship arc and friendship element. And then, like I said, he does something very heroic, and dies while doing it. And I think the readers that read that book wanted to experience more of the softened version of this character, of the character once he had actually learned how to trust somebody for the first time.
Interesting. Now, has anyone had a character that they've written a full dialogue for and kept them in a story way too long, and they wanted to just get rid of them, but they became an intricate part of the story? Because I've had this happen myself. I hated a character that I had come up with, and it wasn't that I love the writing itself, but I didn't care for the personality, and I wanted to change the personality, but I didn't, because I seen it as, this is something that I wanted to make sure that I could do in writing, period. I wanted to work through it and make this character important to myself. And you know how you have that little Achilles heel? And that was my one thing. I'm like, I want to love this character. And to this day, I absolutely love the character. But there was a time there when the first time I wrote the character, his emotions they seemed like they were all over the place initially. Now, when you're writing, the reason I'm saying this is when you're writing, does dialogue ever trip you up? Have you ever written a character where the dialogue has just kind of went south and you're like, whoa, I got to reel you back in? Does that happen to anyone?
I feel like I've been talking a lot.
I feel like I'm getting dead silence. Come on, guys.
For me, and you guys, I'm a novice compared to you guys, so I hate to speak out on something that is an idea for me, but that you've experienced. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm not talking as much.
Gotcha. Michael?
Well, I mean, to some extent, I can relate to this. I have a character named Bob, the dad joke telling narwhal. And literally,
with the horn.
He was written because in my books, I do a lot of breaking of the fourth wall and a lot of exploring the idea that my characters kind of know that they're characters in a story, and then eventually we explore that even further. But I introduced this character really just to be a little bit of like a Jar Jar Binks. Like he was kind of meant to be hated by everyone because he shows up and he keeps the characters from doing what they really need to be doing by making them listen to really annoying dad jokes. What ended up happening was James, my co-writer, brought him into the story in a bigger way and made him, do some pretty serious stuff later on, which is totally not what I expected. But I kept it because I realized it was kind of cool, because there's some cool kind of in-story things where, he does something really, again, like Bob the Narwhal does something pretty heroic. And one of the characters says, Bob, I don't have time for a joke right now. And Bob says, not everything's a joke, Matthias. And so he gets this kind of moment of, okay, you think all I do is tell annoying jokes, but, I can be serious too when it calls for it. And at first I was like, wow, it's not what I expected from this Jar Jar Binks character. But as I sat with it, I realized it was one of the best moments in the story, and one of the more memorable lines. So something that I really wasn't sure about has become something that now I'm glad stayed.
Now, how in your world building, how do you decide what type of world to put your character in?
when
If you start
with me, when I'm
Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
when I'm world building, I always like to put characters in there where if I put them in that situation or that world, they're going to be challenged.
Mhm.
Where it's going to force them out of their comfort zone. I think that's the most interesting thing is when you take characters that you know are going to react a certain way in a certain situation and throw them into that situation and force them to battle through it and see how they react to it and see how it changes them. I think that's where you get a more interesting story and a more dynamic story.
Definitely.
Great. Yes. All right. So, a couple of things. Going back to that that first question about character, that the dialogue wasn't working, and you didn't like it first. So, I do have a character like that. I had to think about it for a little bit of time, but there's a character in a novel that I wrote. It's not out yet. I'm editing process. Anyway, the name of the title of the book is called Jiggly Spot and the Zero Intellect, and it is a satirical cosmic grindhouse horror novel. All right, so and there is a alien female that's in the book. Her name is Kara. Right, Kara has like tentacles with eyes, and they're actually like living creatures that are on her head. And she was a bitch the whole way through. All right, she is like I would get her to a certain point, I'd be writing her, and then I'd go through this huge like mental block right in the entire story, and then I realized that it was her. I had to go back and completely do so many rewrites to get her character correct. I just despised the woman, right, the whole way through, because I kept having to do these rewrites. And then at the end of the story, it finally came to fruition, and I figured out exactly what she was doing and why she was causing me to do those rewrites. Fucked up as that. However, that's my Kara. And now I actually love her character, the way that she went through that entire novel and how she comes out at the end. So, but while I was writing her character, it was one of the more difficult characters I've ever had to write in my entire life. So that's Kara in Jiggly Spot and the Zero Intellect.
Now, do you have rules for yourself? Have you set rules or guidelines?
No, I don't like rules. I don't like guidelines, and I don't like limitations. I just let it go. It's like, take my head off like that and just let all the shit that's in my brain just completely come out and onto the page. No rules.
I love it.
Never
So there's no rules when it comes to writing, period. You don't follow any of the basic rules of writing.
I try not to. Right?
Okay.
I mean, if it happens naturally, then yeah, that's fine, right? But I'm not going to say, hey, there's this rule and I need to follow that. I don't go that way.
Do you think they get in the way?
Do I think that rules get in the way?
Uh-huh.
I would say yes. If you want to put yourself out there and write the best story possible, and that requires you to break every rule that's out there, then yeah, they just got in the way. All those rules, you just keep barreling down, barrel each one down, boom, 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 and put out the best novel you possibly can. Put your heart on it, and you can't go wrong. That is a fact.
I concur. Sorry, I when it comes to hearing, well, you have to abide by this or this way, and there's this rule to this, and no, not when it comes to writing. It's your heart, it's your story, it's your sentiment, and it's between you and the reader. And
yeah,
this is why I ask these questions. Ron, do you play by the rules, so to speak? Because I know readers love.
I tend to be a little bit rebellious, I guess you'd say. For me, I mean, listening to PD talk, for me, it's the character and the story is the rule. It's not something that someone else has told me I have to do, even though I try to. I'm learning, and I want to write a good story. So there's some basic things I try to follow. But if I get to the point and I have to not do that, well, if the story says, yeah, and the character is going to go do that, then that I go with that first. That's the first priority. You know, and you were talking about the death of a character. One of my main characters dies in this book. It was planned. It wasn't like a accidental thing. He's actually my favorite character in the book. He's just the most fun, the most entertaining. He's got a funny accent. He talks funny, and he's always telling stories, and he's telling jokes all the time. And he's always he has nicknames, 20 nicknames for every person he knows. And so he dies. And when that happened, I tried to write it. Maybe PD would understand this, but I tried to write it to where it was just, I mean, it was a horrible event for everybody, because they had already developed all these relationships with him. And then he gets killed doing something, like Mike was saying, very heroic. Now, it was planned, like I said. Now, he doesn't actually die. So he's still in the story, but they don't know that. When it happens, they don't know that. They drag his body away, and that's all they know, is that he's gone. And it's just a big emotional moment.
John, how about you?
I don't play by the rules when I write fiction. I love, one of the things I love to do is take, you know, tropes and certain like stereotypes and like turn them around in a different direction. You know, like when I wrote Pandora Reborn, for example, one of the key characters in there, Dean, he initially, when he's introduced, he embodies kind of the crazy old hermit stereotype that you'd see in a horror story. Mm-hmm. But as I go along, I develop his character and kind of reveal the circumstances that led him to being kind of this isolated, you know, quote unquote unhinged crazy dude. And I reveal how the main antagonist of the story, he actually battled her 55 years earlier when he was a teenager, and he'd witnessed her kill his parents, his girlfriend, and his brother before he was finally able to imprison her, lock her away for 55 years. And so when he sees everybody that he ever loved die, it unhinges him. He has some serious PTSD from it, and it adds an element to him that's tragic. He's not just this laughable, crazy old man. He's actually a tragic figure from that point on. And I felt like it added it adds an extra dimension when you're able to do that, to set the stage one way and then take it in a completely different direction. And a lot of readers that have read that book love it. They love Dean. That's one of their favorite characters, and that's why they like him, is because he defies their expectations as a character.
Nice. What's the hardest part of writing?
All right, so it used to be editing. I'll be honest. I was definitely afraid. I didn't want to see the edits. I didn't want to know anything about the edits, right? To put it aside. It's like, can I pay somebody to edit after the edits come out? No, that can't happen. It's like, bite the bullet. And then I figured out, all right, so I'm a writer. I need to do this, and I need to actually fall in love with editing. So I fell in love with editing, and now it's like one of my favorite parts. Writing and editing are equal in that respect. So at this point, what it is, it's like the hardest part for me is actually when the book comes out, honestly. It's like bittersweet. It's kind of like when one of my kids goes off to college. It's like, all right, I sent you away, you're done, I did my job, and you're going off into the world, and what people think of you and what happens to you is all on you. And it's like sending that book off into the world to see what happens, kind of like make your own thing. So I think that is the hardest part of writing for me at this moment.
Nice. Ron?
I am unmuting myself so the dogs won't bark at you. But
Don't let
for me,
you sleep here. I'll wake you up.
lots of animals around here. But for me, it's the beginnings. once I'm writing, and it just goes, it flows, and I'm happening, and I always have music playing, and I'll sit outside sometimes and just write, and it's always fulfilling to find out, wow, that was a lot of words in a short time. But then if I'm interrupted, whether it be for, I don't know, vacation, family, or whatever, then I have to begin, and the getting started again. Well, it may take me a few weeks to get started again, but once I get started, I'm going. So for me, it's always the getting started. Kind of weird, huh?
No, not at all.
No?
I mean,
Okay.
there's so many, I think every story is different and has its own elements that will appeal to you, and then other parts that will drive you nuts. At least I find that.
Yeah, I think so.
How about you,
That's
Michael? What's the hardest part of writing?
Okay, so, well, I can tell you what the hardest thing was when I started writing, because I wanted to write something that had magic and fantasy in it, and I also wanted to write something funny and satirical and character-based. I had no problem with the funny and satirical parts, but when I got to parts where I wanted to come up with choreographed battles and stuff like that, that was when I called on my co-writer. And that was actually how we started our collaboration that is now up to 11 books. If you want to talk about what I find now that I've allowed myself to accept that I'm going to be a co-writer and handle a certain element of the writing, it's probably because I also handle the editing, and I also handle the final drafts of everything and blending it all together. That's my role as well. It's looking at my books and allowing myself to accept that they're ready for that next step, not going through them obsessively, looking for every single error, typo, word that I don't like, and wanting to fix it. That's probably a big one right now. And it's part of the reasons why I've had some delays in putting the box set out, is that it's never quite good enough for me. So now I'm at the point where I'm saying, okay, you know what? It's got to be good enough because I got to get it out there. And I'm giving myself firm deadlines to actually get it out.
Nice.
And guys, I do have to, just for 1 second, I do have to apologize. I may conk out on you because my phone is at like 5%. I don't know. It was weird because I had a lot of charge, and as I'm doing this on my phone, and it just, you have 5% left.
Well,
these video things use a lot of power.
Yeah. So I do apologize if I conked out. If you had any other questions that were specifically towards me.
Well, let me ask you this. Just let us know, give the readers all the places they can reach you and look for your book.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and then I'll just take myself out so it doesn't end out awkwardly. Yeah, so you can first of all, I have 3 books available on Amazon right now: The Ale House Wars, The Ale House Rebellion, and The Cider of Legend. I do not have. I have 2 websites. My publishing company website, which is fallbrandpress.com, and then my blog, which has all kinds of interviews, podcasts, etc., is fantasy-focus.com. The site's actually fantasy sci-fi focus, and it covers all types of speculative fiction. But the URL was from back in the day, and I haven't changed it yet. And then obviously you can find me on Facebook. I run the fantasy sci-fi focus Facebook group, which is, like I mentioned earlier, very close to hitting 5,000 members. So we're going to have a big party for 5 members, and try to think of where else. I don't have specific media for my books yet, but that is going to change. I'm going to build most likely a reader group and a website specifically for our books. If people, oh, and another place where I hang out a lot is Humorous Fantasy on Facebook, which is a group specifically dealing with, like it says, satirical stuff.
I love it.
So that's me.
It's been awesome. I'm so glad you came to join us.
Happy 5th episode anniversary. Hope you had a nice little hiatus and got some.
I definitely did.
And
I just got back from vacation. That's what Michael's speaking of. And I was in the woods in a cabin and loving every minute of it.
I'm glad.
It was awesome seeing you, love, as always.
Paul, John, Ron, great being here with you guys, and we'll talk soon as well.
Great seeing you.
Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, cheers,
Good
guys.
night,
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
One down.
Yeah, and we're just going right through them tonight, aren't we?
Yeah.
Is this not normal? I mean, this is my first
It's
experience.
not normal. Nothing about this show is ever normal.
This is my new normal.
Normal's
because it's my first
overrated.
experience.
You know what?
True
I
enough.
wouldn't have it any other way. Wouldn't have it any other way. Gentlemen, I'm actually going to have each one of you give a piece of advice to any other new author that wants to know, what's it take to write a book? Ron?
Oh, dang. What's it take to write a book? Never give up. You don't have to go fast. Just go. And somebody out there is going to enjoy reading it. So don't worry about that kind of stuff. If you do that, you'll never, ever do one page. Just don't worry.
I like it. PD?
All right, so I always say, enjoy it, love every minute of it, take your time. But I give this advice often. So everybody knows to read, right? That's the big thing. Write, read. Agreed, 100%. You need to be doing that. But when you're reading, all right, and you're reading that book, stop every once in a while. Ask yourself some questions. First of all, why do I keep reading? Right? What's keeping my attention? How is the author introducing new characters? What is the flow of the book? How's it going from chapter to chapter? Stop and ask yourself those questions to understand what the craft of writing entails. That is my best piece of advice for new writers.
I love it. John?
My advice to new authors, aspiring authors, is this: find your own voice. Don't worry about what other people are writing about. Tell the story that you want to tell. I mean, you're the only one that can tell your story. So just go for it. Be disciplined. Work at it in some form every day until you accomplish your goal. There's so many people will say, "Oh, well, write to this genre, write to this market." No, just tell the story that you want to tell and learn how to do it in a way that will please you. And when you put out that story, there's going to be an audience. Somebody's going to find it.
Amen.
There are going to be readers out there that will absolutely love the story you create.
Without a doubt. And I am a
Just gotta find them.
believer. You need to be true to yourself. And if you're writing anything, you need to be true to those characters. So I feel as though I am a representation of my writing. And I know that with myself, I love to have people come up to me and tell me about the characters, what amazing things that they inspired in their life, or if they hated this character and why they hated him. Now, PD,
Yes.
have you had anyone come up to you and speak to you about your characters directly?
I mean, not personally, however, through email, yes. Right. So I do get emails from readers, and usually they're part of my newsletter, and they've gotten a book, you know, so they're there and they'll like reply to my newsletter. And yeah, it feels good when you get that kind of correspondence from someone. It's like, hey, I connected with someone. It was part of my newsletter. I gave away one of my books for free. I think it was Twisted Tales of Deceit at that time. And they got it, they wrote a review, and then they actually emailed me to tell me how much they love the book and about the characters, and the fact that they actually left the review for the book as well, which was really, really cool. I love that interaction. I get emails frequently too. So yeah,
It's an awesome feeling, isn't it?
it is. It feels
Absolutely awesome.
good.
Ron,
Yes.
how about you?
Characters. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm kind of new and the book's kind of new, but my editor and then several of my beta readers and a few of my friends too, who now have copies. The comment is like, oh, this is you. Oh, and that's so and so. They want to apply real world people to the characters. That might be right. I don't know, but I think the one that stood out is the character I told you about, the fellow that ends up getting killed. At the beginning, so many of them were like, oh my gosh, this guy irritates me. I can't handle the way he talks. I just can't stand. Oh wait, actually, I get it now. Oh, I really like the way he talks. Oh, I like the way he talks. Don't change it. So it was kind of funny to me. The editor did that. Everybody said the same thing. Is like, first couple of chapters, he talks so weird. I just can't handle it. He got such a weird accent, but never mind because I really like it now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Don?
The responses to my characters kind of run the full spectrum. I have some readers that will tell me, "Oh, I love this character. I love that character. They're so cool. I can relate to them." And then I have occasionally a reader that'll tell me, "Oh, I hate this character. They're so awful. Why do you have this character in this story?" But I love hearing all of it because it shows that they're emotionally invested in it. You know, if they didn't have any sort of reaction, I'd probably worry about it.
Yeah, it's the invested that we love. That's what we crave as authors. Gentlemen, I'm going to go through and each one of you, how can we reach you? How can the readers reach you? John?
So my author website is johnkuhn.net, and that has links to all my books, my latest blog posts, author interviews I've done, all sorts of fun stuff like that. I also have author pages on Facebook, BookBub, and Goodreads where readers can follow me, and the BookBub, they can see some of the books I like. Goodreads, they can get some cool quotes from my books and other things. And then Facebook, they get news and updates on everything. And of course, all my books are available on Amazon and other major book retailers. I have an Amazon page that lists all my books. They're out. I have three novels currently out, a short story, and then my fourth novel will be out in July 13th. And my novels are Pandora Reborn, Under a Fallen Sun, Alien People, Dark Metamorphosis, and the short story is In Hell's Shadow, which is a fun little ghost story. Definitely recommend that. That one's on Kindle Unlimited for people who have Kindle Unlimited. They can check it out there.
Congrats.
Thanks.
Definitely. Okay. Ron?
Okay, well, of course, Amazon, I guess, is the main place to get a hold. You can get the book. My author name is R.R. Rippey, and you'll find it there by name or by my name. On my website, still developing content for it, but it's up, is rippybooks.com. So it's pretty straightforward, Rippy Books. And then on Facebook, you can find me by my name, Ron Rippey, or you can find my author page, R.R. Rippey. Both, I mean, they're connected, so they're both the same thing. Still developing things, trying to get a handle on what it means to be a published author.
That's awesome. PD?
Okay, so I'm across social media, PD Oliva, author, and you'll find me, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Goodreads, BookBub. I mean, everything's out there. Best way to reach me is through my newsletter, pdoliva.com, which you can probably see right there.
Yes.
pdoliva.com. And
Classy.
right?
That was classy. Classy. I like that.
I tried, and of course I'm on Amazon and across all of the major booksellers as well. So you'll find me.
Gentlemen, I have had a beautiful night despite all the technical difficulty.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh,
Yeah.
without a doubt. I've loved every minute of it. And thank you very, very much. Everyone, you have a beautiful night. And readers and writers, we're here for you. This is what we do because we love what we do. Everyone, thank you for making it such a great show. And I have enjoyed myself immensely. Have a beautiful night.
Welcome back.
You also have a beautiful night. Thank you.
Anytime, you guys are welcome. Anytime.
Thank you.
Let me know.
Have a great night.
Have a great
Good
night,
night.
guys.
Good night.
Good night, guys. Nice to meet you all.
Very nice meeting you. Good.